have a few more questions from our audience, if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. Let me take my professional pose. Okay.
All right, perfect. So here, I've got a bunch of them. Probably won't ask all of them, but first up, we have one from Matthew 6418 who asked, maybe not. Well, actually, they didn't ask, but it's not a question. They just wanted to say that Replaylee was absolutely brilliant, and a lot of the comments had statements like that. They all love the game, so
That's honestly, it's so nice to hear, and for two reasons. One, it's just nice to hear, when someone loves something you've done, and that's brilliant, and that'd be fine just there. But also in terms of the pressure on us to do this game better. Imagine if we'd have said, "Hey, we're doing Yooka-Replaylee," and people get their hands on it and said, "Well, you've had another few years on it now, and you've still not improved it." It's so pressure relieving to hear all this, great feedback and great commentary from people. So thank you very much for that comment. That was lovely.
absolutely. Moving on, though, one of the more common questions we did get from Executor83 and others is not too long ago, I believe you guys had said that you were exploring a patch for Switch 2 to, I think, focus on the possibility of 60 frames per second on that version. Are there any updates you guys have for that by chance, or anything more you can tell us about how that's going?
No, there's still work being done in the background, and we honestly want to set expectations reasonable. We're doing everything we can and changing way more than we originally thought or hoped we'd even have to go and see, try and achieve that goal. Performance is really important, and I think it still plays great at 30 frames a second. Like everyone on the original game, when we released it on Switch 1, said, "Oh wow, this was the definitive version," and it was great, and that went at 30 frames a second, and everyone was really happy with it.
Right.
I get like if I had a choice, I'd want all my content to be 60 frames a second or even higher if that was the case. So watch this space. See, there's some very dedicated, hardworking individuals, in that direction, doing everything they can, and we'll see what we can do.
All right, sounds good. Rampid, or they have more of a statement again. They just wanted to express their gratitude to them for to you guys for putting the game on an actual Switch 2 cartridge as opposed to a game key card. And I'll actually ask a question about that too. Is what's the consideration you guys have for that? Because we've seen a lot of divisive discussion about this from involving other publishers. So what for you guys made it that this game ended up being on an actual cartridge?
Yeah, so something I think people should be aware of is we have one of the most brilliant, not just company as a publisher, but individuals at this publisher, PM Studios, to work alongside with and bring Yooka-Laylee out. And founder of PM Studios, Michael Young, is one of the everyone says, "Oh yeah, there's the so and so is the nicest person in the industry," and all that. They're all playing second fiddle to Michael Young. He's like amazing.
Wow.
And he's so passionate about physical as well and collections. Like, I'm not kidding. He owns, I think, about 99.9% of everything physically released ever, including multiple variations in packaging of games, hardware, all sorts. If you ever do get a chance to go on a call or meet him, and in the background, it's like an archive. It's like the GoldenEye archives of just rows and rows and rows of the entire video history. So doing physical right was something he was massively passionate about. He's way more motivated than doing things right than just making fast money.
Right.
So we were actually really thrilled when he said, "You know what, we're going to be one of the few people to be going full out physical on Switch 2 early days." And that made us feel special as well, and that he really pushed for that. And you didn't have to push hard. You were just like, "Yep, yeah, if you want to do that, you go do it." So big thank you to PM Studios for making that happen.
Well, that's awesome. That's amazing. I know a lot of people were happy about that decision. Sven asks, probably something you may not be able to answer fully. When are we getting a sequel or the Yooka-Laylee Racer that was teased at the end of Replaylee? So to clarify, at the end of slight spoiler, not really. At the end of Yooka-Replaylee, there's a sticker, I believe, or a picture of of Laylee, I think, in a cart. So could that be a possible tease of anything, or?
I don't want to say yes or no, and I
Right.
think that ruins the fun, right? If
That
one way
makes
you say
sense.
yes and one way you say no. So expect nothing. If things happen, that's great, and if they don't, or if something, maybe that's a red herring, and that's like, everyone's thinking cart now. You wait until that Yooka-Laylee Match-3 puzzle game comes out. Now it takes everyone by surprise.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
for
So
sure.
no, again, and it's nice to put Easter eggs, nods, things in, and yeah, I think the best thing to do is to not really give anything away and just see what happens. What happens.
Right. Absolutely makes sense. Master Marks asks, what was your least favorite part of making the game? And I will add that to myself, either least favorite or perhaps most challenging part of making the game.
I think was something I mentioned earlier. Going back and thinking, right, we've got to improve this thing or change this thing. And let's open up the repository. Let's see how it was before, and just having that horror. And look, it's kind of like when you left all the cables behind your TV for too long and you've just been plugging in more and more things. New consoles come out, and you go back and you look behind you. You've got to untangle all this mess and why? A stitching time saves now, an old saying, and yeah, there was some things in there that was just a nightmare. And you're like, we're going down this rabbit hole. We have to do it, but I'm just scared to even touch a thing right now. It's just so fragile, and one little slight nudge and the whole thing's going to fall down. There's quite a few things like that.
Yeah. That makes sense. Enzival, I believe, asks, if Microsoft, we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but if Microsoft/Rare would give the rights to Banjo-Kazooie, would you be interested in making Banjo-Threeie?
The answer's kind of yes and no. One, I would love to, because as a designer, I want design challenges. And I think bringing back Banjo-Kazooie would be brilliant, but it comes again with a lot of pitfalls. I would love to do it, and I would love Microsoft and Rare to want to do it as well and can consider us. I think we'd do it sensitively and a really fun game. And I think Xbox is crying out for something, in that mascot space, like PlayStation and Astrobot now. I've absolutely smashed it. I mean, Microsoft have Minecraft as well, so it's not like they're short of the broad appeal content which can sell big numbers. But there's just something I think joyous and mechanically fun about a varied 3D platform, and no other genre quite itches, and that you can do in other genres. So I'd love to do it, but it wouldn't be Banjo-Threeie. It'd be a different name game.
Nuts and bolts too?
Maybe not. But I think there's a way. And again, it's just me personally as a creator and designer. I'd be thinking, I'd love to do it like this, and this is how I would frame it. And I'm not going to say it just in case there is ever the slightest chance one day it could happen, but it's way beyond like our control, and it take some, the key decision makers at Microsoft and Rare to go, hey, you want to go, yep, okay, we should. And I don't necessarily think they need to or should. I think their goals and objectives and course they're on is really exciting for what they do next. I think Sea of Thieves, they gained a lot of people's trust and really brought the Rare brand to more people than ever before by doing a game like Sea of Thieves, which is like technically an astounding achievement game as well. But I do, they have licensed to the Rare IP, Battletoads. I know Perfect Dark didn't quite make it, but Killer Instinct as well. There's just, other games from, Rare IP has come to fruition before. So if there was ever a chance, I'd love the opportunity to.
Do you, just semi-related, do you think there's a reason Banjo-Kazooie they haven't tried to bring it back yet? You mentioned, of course, Rare has been pretty busy with Sea of Thieves, but do you think there's other reasons too that they haven't considered it? As I mentioned earlier, right now at least there seems to be a lot of 3D platformers. So
yeah, I think there's always you can look at the same bit of data from two perspectives. They look at it and say, is Banjo-Kazooie relevant in the market today? And they might look at it and say only a dwindling amount of fans, and it's ever shrinking as time passes in terms of people who think banjo's, important and should come back. And there'll be people who, are like, wait, we keep hearing about Banjo-Kazooie, but I've never even seen the characters or never. I've just heard of them in passing in conversations on the internet or whatever with people. And then I'm on the other side of the fence. I'm like, okay, that super passionate core fan base, that's more than coming up with something from the ground up fresh starts with. So that's actually, you're starting from a boosted position, I think, and that core fan base can grow. I mean, if you just look at the reaction Banjo-Kazooie got when they were announcing Smash Brothers, I think that was like, that for me is evidence of they may be, the number of lapsed banjo fans remain, unlapsed banjo fans remaining out there. It shows me that they're still got the passion and energy to carry something and leverage, which is a credit to them. But I think they've wanted it to happen for so long. I think it's hard to talk about it without false hope appearing and things like that. I just think it would be awesome, but if it does, it does.
That's it. Yeah, we'll see. But at least, hey, Yooka-Laylee and Yooka-Replaylee are there to kind of scratch that itch for those who haven't played them yet. So, Brandon R4 asks, this is kind of like getting into the weeds on a specific character. So, but they're asking, what was the scrapped plan with, if you remember, with I.N.E.P.T in Galleon Galaxy for the original version of Yooka-Laylee? He got up to 98% loaded and never got any higher.
Yeah, there was a couple of things, and it would have been following on in terms of how we did a couple of games that probably aren't going to come to fruition now, which is a shame. And we had a 2-box as well. So we I don't know if you remember, for the Kickstarter, we announced a toy box, and that was like a hands-on, very basic geometry, purpose-built level, just to feel the physics and moveset of Yooka-Laylee. And then the game itself came out, so backers got their hands on the 2 toy box. We were going to do a 2-box, and that was like going to be the DLC that came out in that game, and there's a lot of fun stuff in there, and some better evolved ideas and better styles of challenges that we released. It didn't quite come to fruition. And then there was a chance that there was another game that we were working on, might be the one that I.N.E.P.T would have loaded into, and if we could have got some kind of stop and swap feature style working, but in a different guise in the modern era, because we don't have to worry about plugging in cartridges quickly back into consoles whilst it's got memory health. So that was the original plan. We really, really wanted to do it, but there was some things just meant we couldn't. But maybe next month, something would be seen which would maybe give a hint as to what some of these ideas were and how we would have gone from seeing I.N.E.P.T get to 100% and there'd have been something else to go and do.
Oh my goodness. Now I'm really glad I asked that question. All right, awesome. I will say though, this stop and swap, it's freaking cursed. Why is this feature cursed? It can never come to fruition, it seems.
Yeah, and I think back then it was cool, and like, Rare engineers and designers, they were thinking out of the box so much, and were like, hey, how cool was this? And I remember I QA'd Donkey Kong 64, and there was a build of Donkey Kong 64 which worked with Banjo-Kazooie stop and swap, and you got the ice ski, and there was a banana in Donkey Kong 64 that required the ice ski. We actually tested it and did it, and we tested legit the proper way of doing it, but that wasn't to be either. It didn't happen. So it's one of those cool things when you were there at the time, and it would have been amazing. But it's just gone down as something more else other than how it was intended, I guess.
Yeah, as a kid, it crushed me. I was like, seeing the credits of Banjo-Kazooie, I'm like, oh wow, they're teasing future stuff. Like, well, how will this work? And then Banjo-Tooie comes out. It's like, oh, I just break the cartridges. So I was so disappointed in that moment, but I forgive all of you. Final question from our fans. Chris Tronbot asks, Kind of a more general question. What are your thoughts on the current state of the game industry, especially regarding the current state of Rare under Xbox Game Studios? So I will just amend that. I don't know how much you want, how much you can say about that specific employer. So feel free to answer in more or previous employer. Feel free to answer in more general sense. Just how you feel about the game industry, where it's heading right now. Do you think it's heading in a good direction? Are there any concerns you see?
I think there's always positives and negatives, opportunities and risks, and what the challenges are just keep changing and evolving. Discoverability, repeat success, these are like super big challenges for so many people, and the talent's there. The way in which people who are coming into gaming is such a different path. I've got my own kids. My daughter's 6, and she will spend all day, every day, sat on Roblox if I let her. And I don't think I'm not one to say to someone what you can and can't enjoy, but I just think objectively, certain games are more artistically and creatively more valuable to experience. And for me, growing up into gaming, like buying a game, playing something was a special occasion, and when you paid something new, it wasn't that often, right? Mm-hmm. And now people are growing up in a world where you could play something new every 5 seconds and still only pay 1% of what's out there.
Right.
So in terms of getting people's attention, getting people to enjoy and go deeper and fall in love with an experience on a level like how, many of us, I'm sure, used to, is really difficult. And I can't tell my 6-year-old daughter how amazing these other games are, and she should try them when the barrier for getting into them is a little higher. And I think it's worth overcoming, because once you're in, games like Mario Odyssey, even going back to Super Nintendo style games and saying, Super Mario World is still one of my favorite games of all time. I'm like, that to me is one of the ultimate 2D platformers. Surely someone should make it a law for everyone on Earth to have to have played these games before you can then go off and make your own mind up about what's great. I'm joking, but it is tricky more than ever to have the true high quality, brilliantly crafted experiences reach an audience. And it's great to see on the other side of that, though, that making the game's never been more accessible, and you've got people who've managed to find a hook. And what isn't important is it being the most graphically high fidelity experience going out there. It's just really nailing fun or a single mechanic or a single part of an experience really well. And there's audiences now there that will like that in large numbers. And what used to be niche is now, wow, that's really cool. No way did anyone 30 years ago think we'd be power washing light things or climbing with our friends or just ragdolling around and having a beat 'em up where 4 of you like gang beasts are doing that kind of stuff. And so it's great that the creativity in the industry is always finding ways to push itself forwards and make new experiences and never before. But the tricky side of it is standing out. And like I said, I think there's the Nintendo industry, and now I think you've got Sony have carved out their own industry quite well. If you want that best in class 3D action game, it's either being made at, first party, or it's coming to PlayStation anyway, as part of it being somewhere else in the great guys. And then the indie scene right now is just super flooded and difficult. You can make something great, but finding it and being noticed and getting the audience to care about it is the challenge. So,
right.
Yeah, it's challenging times, and it always has been, always will be. And people have to adapt, I think.
Well said. Thank you for that. And real quick, since you did mention your Mario World's one of your favorite games, I do want to ask, do you have any current favorite games you're playing right now or have been playing recently?
I recently got into chess.
Right? Oh, really? Nice.
And this is like so chess is obviously like one of the oldest games ever. And when you look at it from a design perspective, it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. But anyone who plays on chess.com, the UX, the sound, the noise, the ease of playing is superb. It's a really good UX as well. So I've been playing that a lot recently. And Donkey Kong Bonanza, I've been playing with my son. My son is now falling in love with what I really hoped he would, you know. We love Donkey Kong Bonanza. We're smashing our way through that literally. That's great fun. And then there's a couple of games internally at PlayTonic that I can't stop playing.
Oh, wow.
Which is a good sign. Yeah. So more to come on that in future, I hope.
Well, that's exciting. I'll definitely keep an eye out for what those games could be. So, Gavin, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you today about your history and Yooka-Replaylee and how everyone should go check it out because it is a fantastic game. Do you have any final thoughts at all or anything else you want to touch on in this interview when you have a chance to? Anything at all that you want to promote?
Well, one, just a big thank you to yourself for the support, the very kind words, even just inviting me over to come and chat about our games. Like I said, one of the biggest challenges we face as creators is to get more people aware of what we're doing and why we think it's worth their time and attention. But can't thank you enough. That's really good and really, really happy. You know, yours was one of the first previews we saw, and we thought, you know, when we were all sat nervously waiting, biting our fingers, thinking, "Are people going to say they've improved on the first or not?" Well, yours was one that came in early doors, and we're like, there's a big sense of relief. So thank you for that. And like I say, we've spoke before, you know, almost 10 years ago now. So this is that long-term thanks is there really, not just this thanks for this moment in time. So that's a huge thing for it. And no, we really hope, you know, I hope people enjoy Yooka-Laylee and it finds new fans enough so that we don't decide to kill them off and start something new. But maybe if we do start something new, then that's an opportunity for doing something and finding other ways to improve on other things as well, which perhaps even we would be too scared to change with if it was Yooka-Laylee. So
right.
Yeah, the future's exciting and could go either way. And fingers crossed this stuff I mysteriously talk about just comes to pass, and people see in hindsight, oh yeah, that's what it was all about.
Well, here's hoping. Yeah, I'll be there looking forward to it. So, Gavin, once again, thank you for the kind words. Thank you again for hopping on, and I'll be looking very excited to what you and the team make over at PlayTonic Games. So, it's been an absolute pleasure again talking with you, and I'm excited for the future.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been great. My honor.